Welcome back, Red Spotter, a show here on the Red Spotlight Entertainment Podcast. I'm your host, Alexis J. Soto, joined by the wonderful Mr. Peter Martinez. Today we have a good show for you. Just a good show, not a great show. So keep your expectations pretty low. This is episode number 249, and it's going to be a news-heavy show with some reviews sprinkled in here. So we have Tron, Wolfman, AMC, Netflix, Black Widow, Hamilton, and a review of Greyhound coming up all right here. And some other stories as well. I'll explain them as they go, but that's how it is. Peter, how are you doing on week 19 of our lovely coronavirus pandemic?
Only week 19?
Yeah.
Not month? Year?
Week 19.
Okay.
Yes, I'm doing whatever as well. We don't want to. We have a lot of things to get through, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on COVID or whatever, or on what we saw this week. I will say I haven't seen anything this week besides what we're going to talk about. Have you seen anything?
I've actually seen less than you've seen. Well, actually, I've seen some things.
Oh, and?
Oh, is this the part where we talk about the things we've
Let's
seen?
just get it over with. Yeah, let's do it.
Get it over.
We're doing it now.
Okay. I watched, I guess it's a film, you could call it. I don't think many people have heard of it. Hamilton?
We're going to get to Hamilton.
Yeah, but I'm just letting the people know that I have watched it.
I have watched Hamilton as well.
I need our fans in Uruguay to know that I watched Hamilton. Okay?
All right.
Alright. I also watched I Am Not Your Negro. Do you know what that is?
I do.
What is
I haven't seen it. But I do know what it is.
Yeah, it's technically a documentary, but it's kind of like a visual reading of James Baldwin's unfinished final novel. It's very good. Very good. Narrated by Samuel L. Jackson.
I've heard of him.
So, yeah.
He's good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He was the president. I also watched a series of unfortunate events, the movie. I don't know why I just did. It was on Netflix. I hot take. It's very good. I think it is very good. That's my hottest of the hot takes. And then I also watched Batman: Mask of the Phantasm, also on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
Even hotter of hot takes, probably the best Batman movie.
Whoa, that should make for interesting conversation with someone who's actually seen it, but I haven't, so I can't speak to it.
We obviously can't discuss it, but it's very good. It's very, very good. I'm surprised at how good it is. I don't mean to be that guy, but as I was watching it, I was thinking about this film. How it's a cartoon, Batman, Mask of the Phantasm. But then I was thinking about Academy Award winning Joker and how people view that as
which is the most popular film streaming right now on HBO Max, according to some analytics.
Yeah, and people kind of consider that the epitome of I don't know, Gotham related, media. I don't know about media. There's probably some comics
some would consider the epitome
higher.
of comic book genre in general when it comes to film.
And it's just I think Batman Mask of the Phantasm is infinitely better. This Batman cartoon movie from 1993, I think, just runs circles around this 2019 Academy Award winning Joker film. I don't know. I just thought that was funny. That was a thought I had. I laughed. Yeah, that's about it. That's about what I've seen.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, I haven't seen much of anything as far as like in the way of film or TV besides the usual, and I've mostly just been preoccupied with editing, scheduling, podcasts, YouTube. That's it. It's been a slow week for new media.
I did finish Avatar Season 3, The Last Airbender.
But you've already seen it.
For the rewatch, fuck off.
Right? Okay.
Point being, I'll save my extremely hot takes on that for the review.
Which is imminently coming in our direction. Mm-hmm. So that wraps up what we saw this week. Kind of next to nothing, at least on my part. So one thing I do want to say before we move on to the actual stories is, like, as far as the whole COVID situation, there has been a notable shift on the part of most governments, not all state governments, state governments, in terms of like basically canceling reopening America 2020 and going back into lockdown with more restrictions being posed on mandating masks and everything.
We're going back into lockdown and also send your kids to school.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're hearing. So I think people know our thoughts on that already. I will say, though, the governor of California specifically said all indoor activities are gone as part of going back into lockdown. Los Angeles is very close to going back into complete lockdown mode. So with that on the horizon, I don't see that reopening anytime soon as well. So yet more evidence, I feel, to suggest that movie theaters are not happening in 2020.
No, you don't say. I gotta ask, how long do these blockbusters have to sit on the shelves before they lose too much money?
Well, let's talk about Tenet, right? Because that's an interesting situation. I shared with you some tweets about how some analysts, box office analysts, were disagreeing with each other about how much money Tenet would have to make at the box office to break even or to make a profit. Some were putting it at around the original number at $400 million. Of course, you have to factor in the marketing campaign, which they're spending marketing campaign right now. They're spending marketing money right now for August 12th, which as of this moment is not happening in California. So they can kiss that goodbye. And they were promoting it on UFC and other stuff, other parts on TV as well. Some analysts say that number is as high as $800 million worldwide, which is massive. Even for Christopher Nolan, that's a massive number to get there.
That's difficult to make. That's a difficult number to hit when every theater was opened up and everyone can just go anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be real. Christopher Nolan's acting like such a little bitch. Like, he ruined his own movie. He really did. Like, with the release of it. He could have swallowed his pride. Stuck his whatever's up his ass, just stick it out. Probably his ego. And just be like, yeah, move it back a year. Fuck it. I want people to see if I really want people to see my movies in theaters, kick it back a year. Maybe even 2. But no. He had to crown himself the savior of cinema. So, good luck with that, Mr. Nolan.
It just seems like a stupid-ass decision on 2 very big levels. First and foremost, on the financial standpoint. do you not know how to add? Do you not know, the fact that half of the theaters on the whole planet are not going to be open, that a plague that is rampant is not going to go away. The financial standpoint, there is no case for a reasonable financial gain. You're losing money anyway if you're doing it. So you would have saved yourself so much money if you just push it to summer 2021. Like Universal was very smart. They got ahead out of all the other studios. They pushed, Furious 9, I think under their Minions movie, they pushed all those immediately to 2021. But they're the only ones that seem to be in any kind of like reality, because Warner Brothers letting themselves be pushed around by Christopher Nolan is not working out for them at all. And then there's also the image that Nolan has kind of injected into his like whole brand, and it's not a good one. It's not a good look on you when you're very much making statements or people are reporting on you about your priority and your concerns about your movie, trying to save movie theaters, which from some standpoint is commendable, but really it's not, because it is a diluted mentality with the realities that exist right now with COVID-19. But that to the side, you come across like an individual that doesn't care that people may get infected with the deadly virus just by purchasing a ticket to your movie.
Mm-hmm. But like, this might seem like a non sequitur, but it is not. When we talked about issues pertaining to Hollywood, like all those baby rapists, pedophiles, sexual assaultors,
Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, of that variety.
And the way people kind of look a blind eye, or even go, like, even great directors look a blind eye to other great directors and their misdeeds, because, hey, they're great directors and film, the cinema, that sort of warped, disgusting view of the world where cinema comes first. I think this is an extent of it, where it's like, a terrible plague taking over the whole world, sure, but let's, the cinema, the theaters, let's save it, da-da-da-da-da. And it's like that idea that art comes first before people, when art is just supposed to be an extension of the human experience, not replace it. It's wrong and it's bad, and that comes from someone that very, very much loves movies, watch a lot of them.
You said a similar thing about Disney this week, about how Disney opened some parks. There is an interesting connection between theme parks and movie theaters in that they both share very high risk of exposure to COVID-19 if they are open. But they also have a similar existential crisis, and that is that they can't, for the foreseeable future, be in operation, and they're losing so much money. To that, I would say, since both, I should also mention that AMC and Regal right now, this part of our, I'll be throwing out a lot of news stories, so get used to it. But part of this is that AMC and Regal are suing the state of New Jersey so that they can open quicker, because they've allowed churches to be open. Just keep that in mind. But the thing is this.
Which they shouldn't be open either.
Of course not, no. Churches shouldn't be open.
Churches should be, because you know how they have like different levels? I don't know, like level 2, level 3. Churches should be like the last level to open up.
Yeah. So Disney World is open right now, and this is an interesting similarity in terms of their like precarious situations. They've both have clearly made the decision to forego the safety of their customers. In spite of that, whatever risk they have for the customers, they're far more concerned with opening as soon as possible to make money. While that may be in the short term the best for their bottom line, I can't help but wonder that both of these industries have not factored in the damage to their brand by reopening and being new sources for mass spikes of infection for COVID-19 to the point that they have to close again. I cannot imagine not anticipating the long-term damage that will do to your institution as a brand, as an identity, if you come out and you are the cause for people getting sick. And that does translate into dollars at some point.
Does it?
Yes, it does. If the pandemic is still going on, and if they're reopened and they close and open again and close and open again, what money are you making? If you're a business in any sense, and if you're opening and closing again.
That's why I told you, for a lot of these places, the hardline statement's going to be, no, we can't go back. We've opened up, and we just got to tough through it. We're open for good.
I disagree with that. I disagree. Well, look, yeah, so we have differences of opinion here. I see things getting so bad, so bad, that they themselves are going to have to close.
Yeah, but they can't
sustain being open.
They don't look that far ahead. I don't think they believe that.
Yes, of course, I agree with you. I agree that they haven't factored in, but I think that's just stupid. How is it that, like, everywhere you look in these grand institutions, their leaders can't think that far ahead? If it occurs to me, a virtual no one who has no connection to any kind of power or this industry, if I can see things getting bad, and by the way, I do want to say, not that, again, we're smart at all, but everything that you and I have said from the beginning of this pandemic as it's progressed has come to fruition pretty much beat for beat. And that is, things are getting consequently worse and worse and worse. So I guess my point is, it's incredible that these people who are so rich and powerful can be so incredibly stupid. Not that that's anything new, but in the time of crisis is so dangerous.
But the kids got to go to school. I think we can agree on that.
Yes, they do, and they can do it virtually. Unlike some governors.
Whoa. I think it's already been proven it doesn't work. So, we tried. Oh well. Everyone needs to just go back to school and die.
Well, since we're on the matter of AMC, they've announced this week that they have come up with, I don't know if I think it's around $400 to $600 million, but they have announced a debt plan in which they can sustain foregoing bankruptcy for another year or so. And that is, they've called some old debts to help them stay open. What do you make of that?
Like gangsters, they're calling in. We loaned you. Now it's time to pay up. I mean, yeah, I don't feel good for, like, anyone, how do I put this? It sucks that a side effect of the coronavirus pandemic, superdemic, is that a lot of businesses close up. I don't like that.
Especially smaller businesses, but of course, big corporations are closing. We've had Chuck E. Cheese, Bed Bath & Beyond, just to name a few, that have already announced bankruptcy.
Yeah. It doesn't make me happy.
Of course not. I mean, nobody wants these places to close, and it's a very unfortunate side effect. And if I can speak personally, I know of people who are very close to me and my family who are more than likely going to lose their businesses very soon.
Like, if massive corporations are shutting their doors, like, do small businesses even have a chance? Let's be real. Like, it's And it's not even, because, I mean, we're not necessarily fans of massive corporations, but it's not that. It's like entire industries falling, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I may have a problem with massive corporations, but I don't want to see movie theaters, you know, overnight, like 90% of them just disappear, fall into disarray, lose their business. Like, that's not a hope. It's not something that makes me happy. It's something that makes me quite sad, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I love the movie theater. Hopefully you'll go there one day. So yeah, it's not good. Not good at all.
I will say though, and I think someone made the point, I believe it was Breakfast All Day, you know them. Wonderful, wonderful podcast, YouTube. They have a new show every week. And I also want to say it was Alonzo Giraldi from The Wrap that said this. Good. If they have the money to stay open, or maybe it was someone else on Twitter. I can't remember who. Anyway, if they have the money to stay open, AMC, then they shouldn't push to reopen.
Yeah.
Going so far as to sue a state to open up again.
Again, if a lot of these places had half a brain, you would push for an intense lockdown. Like, I honestly feel if we had an ultra intense lockdown where for a month or two, just everything was shut down. If the cops see you on the streets, they send your ass back inside. Like, you cannot leave your house. It's essential workers, obviously, like doctors, nurses.
The point is, Peter, though, and Moreno and Kyle and I discussed this on Fantasy Fair, which you can listen to every Friday on our podcast network.
I won't, but go ahead.
Well, we talk about the fact that there are so many countries who've kicked our ass in this. Look at New Zealand. Look at Japan.
Because, like, there's a couple cases, and then everyone just... The government's like, okay, extreme level shutdown.
Extreme? Look at what Hong Kong just did. Like, Hong Kong had like a 60% increase, and they shut down Hong Kong Disneyland.
Yeah, and most... You know, some of these countries are obviously more authoritarian than ours. So
absolutely, and
but some of them aren't.
Right. So don't mistake that as like, yes, we acknowledge that countries have countries have different forms of government, and China, because of their authoritarian nature, they can be much more extreme. In this case, it ended up being good for that country with COVID-19.
But that's the thing, though. There's other countries that aren't. It's just
right.
But the government still does the same thing, like total shutdown. But then they're like, their citizens aren't complete fucking morons.
Like,
they're just
Kyle
this is
Kalinske.
the good for everyone. And
then Kyle Kalinske from Secular Talk made the point that in Japan they never shut down. Everyone just wore a mask and social distance.
Yeah,
the economy never shut down.
There's so many. It just seems like other countries go like, oh, like, yeah, obviously this virus is real. Why is this even a question? What do we have to do? Like, keep away from each other? Oh, yeah, obviously. Wear a mask? Easy. Done. Because... and it's just sort of... how must it be like to just have a country of citizens where there isn't a massive portion that's just completely fucking brain dead? I'm jealous. Like, it's... Imagine what you could accomplish. Oh, my God.
Well, I mean, look at the comparisons. Hong Kong closed Disneyland because they had an increase of 60% spike or so. Yeah. On the same day that Florida had 15,000 new cases of coronavirus, Disney World opened for the first time in months. What a perfect parallel for, the situation that is going on with us. We have states now 19 weeks into the pandemic. We have states that are for the first time beginning to mandate masks. Wearing masks. Today, one of the high officials in the CDC said that if everyone wears a mask, we can get in a situation from 4 to 6 weeks from now where we can be in a much better place?
I'm gonna be honest.
You're not honest?
Maybe this
You're always honest. Let me be clear. Maybe anticipating what you're going to say.
Yeah.
I don't know if I necessarily believe that, but I do think we'll be better. We can.
Oh no, this has
get
nothing
better.
to do with that.
Right.
I was thinking maybe this ain't the most PC thing to say, but
Well, if it's bad, I can cut it out.
no, leave it in. The world must
All right.
know. We obviously have terrible healthcare.
Oh, yeah.
In this country. Is there a possible link that maybe it's a combination of our healthcare and the way our society ostracizes certain individuals with these issues, but maybe it is because the United States is just so god-awful addressing mental health that there is really just a legitimate portion of this country that has genuine mental issues we're just terrible at addressing it. I
would throw in there horrible public education system.
Oh yeah, I would throw that in too. States' rights are a joke, people, because that's really what it is.
Ooh, you just hit a nerve, man. You just hit a fucking nerve. I remember in all my fucking classes hearing about states' rights and thinking what bullshit that thing is. And watching Hamilton, there was a portion of it with Thomas Jefferson, and I went on a rant about this on Fantasy Fair. And like David was like, we should have seen this coming when I said the South can go fuck itself, because every single time they have to throw around states' rights. It's, I hate the history of this country having to appease to the worst of ourselves, granting them the ability to have states,
From
giving them the ability to like secede. I'm sorry, wait, hold on. I'm not done with this shit yet.
Okay.
Corrupting reality when their public education, enforcing their teaching of religion over, the actual history of our country in its accurate form. Science, of course, is completely looked down upon. And oh my God, every time they fuck us over. And the electoral college exists because we needed to appease the smaller states. And they gave us Donald Trump because the Electoral College was created. In Florida, fuck them. They gave us George W. Bush when we should have gotten Al Gore. How many times do we have to point to the South for being the rot of the country? God.
Hashtag not all Southerners. But it's crazy.
Stop it! Wait, hold on.
Wait.
They were the first states to open. They were the first states to reopen in this country that led this whole thing. Just to be clear, if you're thinking that I'm overreacting, I'm talking to the listeners here. I'm not overreacting.
Okay. Let's.
You got me triggered. I'm sorry. You got me going. Shit.
Oh, is the liberal triggered?
Yeah, I'm a snowflake. Yeah.
That's true. But yeah, it is funny because from the beginning of United States history, every one of our mistakes just comes from having to placate certain people in this country, where it's like whether it comes to like states' rights, to slavery, to like you said, the Electoral College, and just the shit ramifications that we have felt ever since then. Only now do I view there being hope that we're finally getting good generations. I would say starting at millennials and below that are like gonna fix the country. Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
I don't want to sound like a complete jackass saying this, but there, in my view, exists a huge disparity in capacity for intelligence between millennials and obviously boomers, but even the generation between boomers and millennials.
Gen X?
Something, yes.
I don't think it's that,
Not, is it Gen X? I don't know, man. To me, well, maybe it's not the capacity for intelligence. It may have a lot to do with the fact of indoctrination and propaganda that went a long way in doing so.
It's
but
because
there's something about us that we can't be manipulated and put in line like those other like Gen X or boomers are. I feel we don't assimilate to that kind of thought.
I think it has nothing to do with the people. I'm very much a determinist. I think. Hold on, I got a freaking hair in my mouth. I think everything about us comes down to our environment. You know what I mean? And the environment we're raised in. If the millennials are a certain way, it's because of the time in which they were raised, who raised them, the social setting or whatever. So like with boomers, it's because they were raised by the previous generation, and the world was their oyster, you know?
Yeah.
College costs a few $100. Economy was booming. You didn't need a college. You could just get a job. I grew up you grew up at a time where very much Cold War bullshit going on.
Yeah. And
on top of that, a booming economy and a booming country. So with all that, wrapped together, like that was your environment. Whereas millennials, they're the 9/11 generation. They're the generation where they will never ever have as much wealth as their parents did. And for years, the previous generation turned around and just called them lazy, called them snowflakes, called them this, called them that. And then Gen Z and below, they see the same thing. Like they see millennials' future and they're like, oh, that's not great. It's not getting any better. Ice caps melting, The reason why I would say like our generations, I would say like generations above us, generations below us, the ones ours, I think it's very much the times in which we grow up. Like every people, it's the times you grow up into and how you're influenced by that. If you grew up believing certain things and the world is great, you're probably going to keep believing them, right? And I also think I read a study where it's like most people, their beliefs they have by like 30, that's the beliefs they'll have by for the rest of their life. So obviously it's going to be different. And then also younger generations are just always the rebel rousers. Every uprising starts in the colleges with the college kids.
Right.
That's not an American thing. That's an everywhere in the world thing. So yeah, it's interesting seeing that generational divide. But this is something I've talked about during the election. Like, people love to make it about race, and not to say that there aren't issues with race. We've talked a lot about Black Lives Matter and all that, and the different ways your skin color can influence the way you view politics here, and all that. But when you really break down, I think the data, the biggest differences are age. As far as where you will align politically and what you will be for politically. And obviously based on our ages, that and how much we break into rants every 5 seconds. You can probably guess where we are politically. I feel like I'm rambling. Here, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think whatever that was, yes, that generational differences definitely play into it. Maybe that's why Nolan is being the way that he is about it.
I don't even think I think
maybe it plays into it. I don't
think it does. I really do think it's that that Hollywood, like, I am an artist, I shall save Hollywood. I really think it's that bullshit. I'm gonna be real.
All right, so let's move on to the next thing that we have here. In line with movies being pushed back, Halloween Kills, which was supposed to be the sequel to Halloween, or as I lovingly call Halloween Triumphant from 2018, to give it an actual subtitle, because it's called the same thing as the original movie, but that's a gripe that I have. Whatever. They dropped the trailer. People went wild until it said 2021. That's a massive tease. And anyway, Candyman is supposed to take its place, but it won't, because it won't come out in theaters. Peter, your thoughts?
I like the subtitle Halloween Kills.
I do. Yeah.
And what's the third one? Halloween Kills again? Or
I don't know.
Halloween.
We won't see it for years.
Kills the final kill or something like that. I do think it's
Halloween
interesting.
Ends?
Halloween Ends.
Halloween Ends.
Yeah, Halloween Ends. Which that's it. I like the titles. What I do find interesting, though, I think it's pretty neat, because the original Halloween 2 also took place on the same night. Because you had the original Halloween, and then Halloween 2 is they took Laurie Strode to, like, the hospital, right? And it mostly takes place in the hospital.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it ends with Michael Myers dying, and the sun comes up, and then Halloween 3 is like it doesn't even have Michael Myers. It's like it has nothing to do. They were trying to turn Halloween into a
anthology series.
And then Halloween 4 is the return of Michael Myers. It's this whole thing. So the fact that they're gonna go like, oh, it's on the same night, I thought that was a cool connection, somewhat, to the original Halloween 2. That's a lot of dead bodies in one night, though.
Yeah.
The first, God, I don't even know how to word it. Not the first one. The last one they made with the Halloween title, because there's 3 fucking films with the word Halloween in it. Halloween 2018? It was 2018, yes. Right? Halloween 2018. I mean, it had a pretty high kill count. Yeah. I don't know how high, but it was pretty fucking high. And then they claim that this next Halloween has, like, the highest kill count, Halloween Kills, of, like, any Halloween movie. It's like, fuck. Is the town gonna be left by the end of it? Oh, that's crazy. But yeah. Oh, how do I feel about being pushed back? It fucking sucks. My hope, my genuine hope, okay, it has to. By next October. Like, it has to. Because by then...
God forbid, yeah.
By then, we'll have a Biden presidency. And I genuinely believe, like, that administration will handle this fucking shit. Like...
There's nowhere to go but up. As, they say in Mary Poppins Returns.
But again, it's... God... Republicans in this administration can cause so much damage until then. Ergo, our previous conversation about opening up schools.
Ergo, shout out to Chris Hayes on MSNBC, who finally said we've had 2 successive Republican presidencies that have brought this country to its knees. Why no one else acknowledges that, I don't know.
I don't want to dive back into the politics.
I know.
Every modern presidency is a Republican coming in, fucking destroying the economy in the country, and then a Democrat comes in and fixes it. And then the entire time, like, the Republican will destroy it, and then they'll turn around once a Democrat is in charge and going like, hey, what happened? Look this whole place is destroyed. It must be the Democrat because they're currently in office. Like, oh my God.
And Americans fall for it every time.
Yeah, and then once everything's fixed, they vote in a Republican, and the Republican rides off the Democrat's success for the first few years, and then they trash it, and then a Democrat comes back in to fix it, and oh my god.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result.
This is why history
I'll say
is
that.
important. Okay.
Yep.
But I mean, look, from Bush. I mean, come on, like from Bush to Obama to Trump. Like, jeez Louise. Okay. What were we talking about? Yeah, so
I know, right? We get distracted every time. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have.
you did this. But yeah. When is the new president's sworn in?
January 20th-ish,
Yeah.
2021.
I'd have to imagine, again, we don't know how it will look by then, but I'd have to imagine a competent administration could get shit in order
Pretty fucking quickly.
by next October.
Right.
Because China, who, we're started there and where it was really bad there, they took extreme measures, obviously, but they were able to get that shit in order in about 4 months, I would say. It might take us longer here, obviously, because
it has taken us longer. I mean, with this administration, but when the new administration would happen, right? Yeah, I think you're right at that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, obviously, you're gonna have that portion of the country that still won't comply, and we're obviously less authoritarian, which is a good thing than China. So it might take longer than 4 months. But I would imagine by the time next October rolled around that we would be in a movie theater.
Right.
Maybe?
A competent administration can do things around, but the thing is we don't have one right now. And I can give you what's the last thing that Trump did in terms of with the pandemic? He pulled out of the World Health Organization.
Yeah.
How that helps anything? I mean...
I'm not counting on anything changing as far as COVID is concerned until
changing for the better. You mean? It's gonna get worse.
It will get worse, and I don't expect it to get any better. The best we can hope for is sort of like stagnation, I guess. Right. But I don't.
We had a brief stagnation in number of deaths, but that's going to go back up.
Yeah,
it's going back up as we speak. I should also, I'm sorry, I always do this every week. I forget to mention it. So at this moment, we have at least a little over 135,000 deaths confirmed in the U.S. for COVID-19. Week 19
it's starting to shoot back up.
Right.
Because at the slightest bit of good news, everyone's like, okay, we did it. Open back up, guys. Like, I remember a few months ago, like, numbers were still going up. And I just kept reading article after article about how, like, this place is starting to open up. We're starting to open up. We're starting to get back to normalcy. And I'm like, did everyone just sort of go, we're Americans. We tried out this pandemic thing. We're over it. So, yeah, we're done. And I remember thinking, like, why are we opening up? Like, numbers are still going. We're not even in a downward trend. What the fuck are we doing? And obviously... anyone with half their mind knows how that turned out. But what my original point before you so rudely sidetracked me with our terrible reality was that if we're capable of opening up next October, at least, there's going to be a good amount. It's going to be a good October for horror movies. I think there was like Halloween Kills. I think they were doing Scream 6.
If they save Candyman, that could also be there as well.
If they kick it all the way back.
The Conjuring.
The Conjuring,
3.
yeah. So it's like, it'll be eventful. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. So I'm glad that they kicked it back, though. And it was the mature thing to do, and it was going to happen anyway. The little tease was nice, right? Give you a little flavor before snatching it away. An entire year. Yeah.
And then as far as sticking with this line of horror, and I don't know when they'll go into production on this, but you and I were big fans of Lee Whannell's The Invisible Man earlier this year with Elizabeth Moss. To my mind, it's still the best movie of the year, pretty easily for me. To me, that's the best movie I've seen all year.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, that's not saying much, granted, but I mean, that stands. And it was a terrific, stirring movie, kind of a surprise considering what this was and what it was also like adapting from. And so the news of Ryan Gosling and Lee Whannell teaming up to do The Wolfman is very much welcome, and very much excited for that movie.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that. Like I said, I just do. It seems as if we've been able to manifest some things in Hollywood recently. So let me give another shot at it. This might actually be a portion of it. I do want them to do the Dark Universe, but use Lee Whannell's Invisible Man as a jumping off point. They don't even necessarily have to be connected in any way that matters. Maybe you could have a side character here. Like, I don't want to see the Dark Avengers or whatever, yeah. where they all team up to fight a darker thing. Like, no, I don't need that shit. But just sort of they exist sort of in the same world and similar tones and similar modern revisions to those original tales. Like, I really like the modern take on what was the Invisible Man, and I can't wait to see what that modern take is for the Wolfman. That's what it was, right?
Yes, that's Wolfman. And also with I don't think Gosling has done horror yet. I don't remember. He's done a lot of genres.
He's done a lot of movies that can be labeled horrific.
In nature, right?
I'm not saying they're like bad. I'm saying like
the nature
they're
of
fucked up or something.
Right.
Yeah, that wasn't a dig at Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, because Kyle hates Ryan Gosling for whatever reason.
Does he really?
Remember? Yeah, he finds him to be boring and stoic in every movie.
That's true. Ryan Gosling is like the anti Kyle Lira favorite actor, because every Ryan Gosling role is just like chilling and stoic, and unless you have a crazy outfit and a crazy voice, Kyle Lira won't even look at you. That's his bare minimum as far as acting goes. So that makes sense.
He never mentions Chris Evans' existence when he talks about Knives Out. There has to be a reason for that, I feel.
He doesn't have a funny accent. How dare he consider himself an actor? You can only be an actor if you have a funny accent. No, that makes sense. Yeah. That makes 100% sense. Yeah,
Gosling is perfect casting. Yeah.
I'm really hoping that they make something of this.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, what's great is bringing the horror back to these franchises, because horror has sort of been seeped out of these stories. With vampires, it's action, it's romance, it's all this other shit, but just a straight up horror film, it's been a while. So yeah. And I again, I want to see the vampire. I want to see the Frankenstein. I want to see the creature of the lagoons, preferably black lagoons. Yeah, I'm down.
And while we're on this theme of horror, this may not be considered good news. I don't think anyone who's a fan of it would be good news. But Sabrina, what's it called? The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina that was on Netflix was canceled this past week.
I saw the first season. I actually enjoyed the first season. It's very much teenage type stuff, but it's also really dark and really fucked up.
Gory?
Yeah. So it's like, this is my jam. I enjoyed the first season. I didn't watch the second season, and it kind of seemed like they were gonna get into the whole love triangle type shtick. And once it starts hitting love triangle stuff, I'm like, pass.
You're done with it.
Yeah. I don't know. Who knows? I might have time, or maybe not, depending on how we'll see to watch it.
Well, the last episodes will air later on Netflix sometime this year, but it came as a surprise, and I think it creates a larger discussion of how Netflix sees the value of its programming. You know, we've talked a lot about Netflix, you know, saving film, and in and of itself, making some of the best movies of the last few years, especially last year. I think was a shining year for Netflix in general. But of course, as streaming services are, their bread and butter are, of course, the bingeable TV shows and programs. And it's interesting that Netflix very much at this point has built a reputation for canceling most of its popular content after a couple of seasons, like usually three, sometimes four. It was just an interesting dichotomy because the same week, The Crown, another one of its longstanding shows, was heading toward a finale with 5-season run, and it was given an unexpected 6-season renewal after it had been previously canceled. And so it brings up, I guess, a conversation about analyzing television and what goes in, the mechanics of what goes into deciding what to keep and what to, get rid of. And I think it's going to go back to why TV is so weird and hard to predict.
Yeah. It just sucks with TV when you sink time and effort and years and you get all excited and you're like, dang, I'm so invested. I can't wait to see how it ends. And then it doesn't. It's just like, endings are so important. I like endings. And they're incredibly important. I don't want to cut you off. I haven't been able to go back and watch Game of Thrones, and I love that show. Especially the first few seasons are so good, but so much of it is the game, and you're so invested in how it ends. But it's hard to watch it knowing the ending of the whole game fucking sucks. It's endings are very important. So I'm of two minds with this when it comes to Netflix, because Netflix, like every other business, is a business. They care about money. Only thing they give a fuck about. Part of me actually likes that they, what do you call it, don't drag out series.
So what you're talking about is like what network television does. I think there's no better example than the CW. Once you're a hit, you get 20 seasons. That's just a guarantee. And they milk it until you're over the mill. You're just, because again, what you and I agree, we're on the same page. The average healthy lifespan of a television show, 7 years. And a lot of there are so many infamous shows that are airing today that have gone way past 7 seasons that people no longer watch for reasons that are obvious.
People keep saying fuck, what's that one show? God, I had the name and then I forgot it. It's paranormal with the two brothers.
You mean Supernatural?
Supernatural, yeah. People are like,
CW show?
Supernatural, it's so good. You should watch it. And it's how many seasons is it? Oh, it's 15, 16 seasons, 20, 22 episodes each season, hour-long episodes. And it's oh, great, fuck off. You expect me to jump in and watch all this shit, which I'm pretty sure no show goes on for 15 plus seasons and is still good, or hasn't at the very least outweighed its welcome. I just don't believe that. I really don't.
There's one that's getting close to it. I think It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is close to season 15, is it not?
Oh, that's true. Sunny's the exception. It always will be. Because the fact that it's sort of outweighed its welcome is also kind of the point.
Right.
Yeah, it's great. So back to the Netflix thing. At a certain level, I like that I'll never have to go like, oh great, is this show gonna outweigh its welcome for the next 50 years? And then it starts out great and then just peters out into bullshit. And then it just sort of stumbles along like a zombie of a show until it eventually goes quiet in the night, way past the point that anyone gave a fuck. Luckily, that will never happen with Netflix shows. On the other hand,
it may be a little too far in the other direction.
Yeah,
you cut it off right at it's reaching its creative peak.
Mm-hmm. And then also not giving the creators the opportunity notice, like, hey, third season, this is probably going to be it, wrap it up.
That's kind of one of the things that's always rubbed me the wrong way about television. Kind of in the same vein as how when you go to a job interview and they bullshit you about whether or not you have any chance of, getting the job.
Yeah.
In the same vein that I wish they would just say straight up, am I going to get it or not? So I can stop wasting my time on your existence. I often felt horrible about the fact that most television shows, and all television shows, do not get any kind of notice whether or not this year will be their last, in order to like create some kind of closure for the people, for themselves, but then also for the people who watch the show.
Yeah. So I really
Which
am
includes,
of two
I'm sure,
minds.
it includes Sabrina from what I've read. They had other plans, of course, for future seasons. And the same, I think one of the ones that pissed people off in recent years was, even though you wouldn't know it by the talk on social media, Daredevil. They had a whole like season 4 plan. They were going to get ready to go into pre-production, and they were canceled in season 3.
Everyone talks about how great season 3 was, though.
I've never seen it. And I
Neither
can't help
have
but
I.
wonder, and the fact that it was canceled may have played a part in me not watching it.
Maybe. But that also means content will always be fresh on Netflix, which is kind of the point, isn't it?
Right.
But then that also makes you worried, wonder, will there come a time where Netflix, maybe even to make room for new content, just kind of quietly starts pulling some of their old obscure shit that they think, no one's watching it. Pull.
I just think maybe if you're gonna have a show on Netflix, let's say you and I were doing a show together, I'd probably plan for a 3-season show max. Don't even bother writing or seeing a 4th, 5th, or 6th season unless like you're really, really popular, and even then you still can't get a guarantee. So just plan to have a 3-season show.
Yeah. Next topic.
That's, Netflix. We should talk about, you mentioned this previously about throwing things out into the cosmos and then, giving you a thumbs up in return. We had done a whole month of Tron. Last week, we talked about an update to Tron. And we have more information that has come to light with Tron and what is in the future. You want to tell us what that was?
No.
Diz Insider has released an update. They're the only ones that are saying affirmatively that they've gotten some new information and they made a story about it, with the caveat, of course, that some reporters have come out very bitterly, I might add, disputing the fact that there was any new information about Tron. But talking about the Diz Insider, they were talking about that Tron 3 is a go. I guess it is going to feature, from what I read, Jared Leto. It may also feature some of the returning cast from Legacy, including Jeff Bridges and Olivia Wilde, and so on and so forth. Thoughts?
I mean, this is basically what we had said last episode.
Right.
That was hinted at. this is somewhat of a confirmation, maybe, not necessarily, I don't know. At the end of the day, though, I am excited. I'm happy. I want it to be good. I'm not gonna get too excited till I know who's writing and directing, because that's really gonna it's
determine
vital.
how this is gonna go.
It's vital, and I mean, Tron's kind of on its third strike as far as movies go. And maybe as a franchise, they need a home run. They really do. This is something where you need maybe a safe bet. You need an A-list director, A-list writer. You need your top creatives, because it needs to be a hit.
Right.
Lest you let go of the potential of this franchise that's been burgeoning since the 80s, but again has another resurgence. This is actually, I think, the new information that's most interesting, because it's actually new, which is we're pretty sure that all of this stems from the success of the Tron ride, and it will be included in other Disney parks. So yeah, that's something where you have the ride sort of bringing back the media side, because with the ride being so successful and the fact that they will be having the ride in different parks, or at least Tron-like attractions, they're going to want media to go along with it. They want that synergy. You know, the rides fuel the media, and then the media fuels the rides, and it's a symbiotic back and forth that most importantly fuels money. That fuels purchases. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of, I hadn't seen anything like it, to be honest with you. It's that ride is so freaking popular. And it's coming to both coasts in California in the foreseeable future. It will be a big part of Tomorrowland in California getting an expansion. More info on that. We discussed it on the Fantasy Fair this week, if you want to listen to that, about what those plans look like, including Tron, of course. But it is interesting. But the excitement for this is very much tempered until we know who will be the creative head of this. And I would hope it is someone new and someone good and a name, because you can't have another flop. You just can't.
No, you can't.
Okay, Oscars.
So what?
Sticking with Disney here. We talked about last week, or at least I gave an update, that a source within the Academy had gone on the record saying that the recorded version of Hamilton, because it is a recorded stage play, that's on Disney Plus right now, would not qualify for awards consideration. Disney doesn't give a fuck. Because they're still planning on submitting Hamilton for awards consideration. Anyway, in I think it was the Hollywood Reporter pointed to two previous situations where certain nominees were included in categories that weren't necessarily in the rules. Then I guess really it doesn't matter, right? Because the rule with the Academy is if you schmooze them enough, you're going to get the nomination or the win.
This is stupid. I hate it. I understand why it can't get nominated, and you know what? I think I agree. Because they already got, I don't know what they already got awards for stage plays and stuff like
Tonys.
that. Yeah, the Tonys. They can win Tonys. But I agree. I don't know if they should. It's weird, right? Because it is technically directed. No, but at the end of the day, they already have awards for stage play musicals. Disney, of course, controls and owns everything in the movie industry. So they could get their way, but I doubt it. But yeah, I do think it's funny that they're trying anyways.
Yeah, so we'll see what comes of that. No, I don't know what exactly that would look like. So next we have Matt Reeves is developing alongside the showrunner of the Showtime series Boardwalk Empire a Gotham cop show for HBO Max that will exist or coincide with the universe of Matt Reeves' Batman films, that it seems as if he's devoted the next 10 years of his life to that at this point, based on what I'm hearing.
Seems
so
like it's his life now.
Yeah, so that's something that's coming. From the outset, removing myself as to whether there's any kind of enthusiasm for this, there really isn't. But I guess I just kind of said it. But I would think that HBO Max needs stuff like this because they don't have a Mandalorian, they don't have like a headlining show. This could be that because it is Gotham related. It will have some kind of connection with the upcoming Batman movie, which we all expect to be great because it is Matt Reeves doing it. So it makes sense from that standpoint. But it is also a cop show, and interesting time to announce that. Peter, your thoughts?
Not only is it a cop show, it's a superhero cop show. And superheroes are just super cops. So, double trouble. It'll be interesting to see how it's handled and what exactly it'll be. Maybe it'll be the Gotham I always wanted instead of fucking Batman Jr. that it turned into. Like all things, we shall see.
So is this, I would just want to be clear. Is this series supposed to be just based on the Gotham PD and regular police officers? If chasing after like Batman villains with only like cameos from Batman?
I don't know. I assumed when they announced Gotham that it would just be about a young cop, Commissioner Gordon, and him like just being a cop, but then it morphed into just a Batman show without Batman. So I don't know what this show will be.
Like most Batman shows without Batman morph into, which they're quite. There's a lot of them.
That's why I don't want to. No, I'm not going into another rant. But yeah, I have no idea. But the people that are running this sure do seem talented. So hopefully, it's good.
Yeah. I guess that also can, you can build a parallel between this and what, at least what Marvel is doing. What I will say about all of the stuff that has been announced for, let's say, the DC stuff coming to HBO Max and, of course, the movies, it is far more intriguing and interesting than anything Marvel has coming up in the near future. And that, of course, extends itself to this mantra they've adopted of basically keeping the same superhero names, but handing them off to different people in the comics as if that worked in the comics, but it didn't. But they're doing that anyway. And that came this week when Kate Shortland, the director of Black Widow, had said that Florence Pugh will be the baton will be handed over to her from Scarlett Johansson as being the new Black Widow. Do you think that's been what is it?
I would say this might be where the Marvel universe just sort of starts spittering and sputtering.
Can I say I agree 1,000%? And on this kind of really, I visualize a sinking ship beginning to happen with this news.
Because
I'll just say that.
That's kind of what happened with the comics. When you started introducing these new characters that would take up the mantle and it was done in an attempt to create excitement, new excitement, because it had kind of waned. Like, that's kind of what always happens whenever they do this kind of passing of the torch, like, and then it just never works out because people just want the original characters back, and then it just feels like this is the point in comic stories where the cracks start to show and it becomes, I don't want to say less entertaining, but the cracks start to show, and then the whole thing kind of starts to fall apart, and then comics sort of like reboot, or a quote unquote reboot at that point. And I kind of feel that's where the Marvel Universe is heading at this point. I don't know. Now, they do have a cards up their sleeve in the fact that they will probably show this Marvel Universe's original interpretations of the X-Men and Fantastic Four, which have not been shown yet. And so that can definitely prolong the universe. But yeah, I really do feel like this is where you start to see cracks in the foundation, because, you know, the Falcon being the new-ish-esque Captain America, people are just gonna be like, cool, I guess, for now. Anyways, is Steve Rogers gonna come back? We love Steve Rogers. Same thing with Iron Man. Every interview, the replacement they have for Iron Man is gonna be like, will Robert Downey Jr. show up? Maybe we can get Robert Downey Jr. cameos. Maybe this will bring Robert Downey Jr. back. People are just gonna be clamoring for Tony Stark. And it sucks because, again, all these people that will replace him are pretty fucking talented, but they're just not the characters, the original characters that people genuinely give a shit about. The only one that you might be able to get away with that is like Miles with Spider-Man, whenever that happens.
Right.
Because people actually really like Miles. Almost on his own character level type shit. But everyone else is just going to sort of feel like the B team. And it's... Why have the B team when you could have the A team? Yeah.
It's just disappointing to me because, you know, you're doing the most literal way of passing the torch, and I think that is just so incredibly unsatisfactory, at least from my standpoint. I think they have an arsenal of wonderful would-be characters that, you know, you could grow into with, you know, fully established arcs, but they're just seeming to do the same. Like, I just... Captain America is Captain America, Steve Rogers is Captain America, and Captain America is Steve Rogers, nobody else. Same thing with Iron Man and Black Widow. You keep the names and you switch out the actors and the characters. I think that is a recipe for disaster and one that will blow up in your face. I'm not interested in that. I'm not inclined to care about that, as that is the case. And it is so depressing to me because I love the MCU. But I love nothing about what's coming. Except for Guardians 3, so I can have my finale there. But even there, they've said for years, well, the Guardians will just switch out. We'll have the roster of the name Guardians will then switch into, like, these other things. They said Guardians. That back in 2017. Yeah. You see, like, this is one of those things where I see, like, you have a precedent for this in the past, and it didn't work out for you, so why do it again?
Mm-hmm.
This is also why I stress why I'm no longer interested in Kevin Feige's vision of the MCU. I've seen it. I'm glad I got it. Mm-hmm. I'm done with it. I need. I think you and I are on the same page where the MCU can absolutely continue to go on, but you have to do something new. You have to be creative. not only are they going to double down and do more of the same, but in the most boring and least interesting and bland and generic way.
Yeah, I don't need them to all just carry on the mantle of a previously defined character. Like, the few things that I am interested in are... Fuck.
It's hard to find anything.
Well, I'm trying to find one where I'm interested in, like, new characters. But I can't think of one. If you consider Doctor Strange a new character, Sam Raimi, Doctor Strange movie, very intrigued. Very, very intrigued. I'll tell you
if
that.
That's a thing, I agree with you.
Mhm.
That's if that's in the cards, I agree.
Well, Sam Raimi himself has come out and basically admitted, like, yeah.
Said so,
yeah.
right.
But everything else that I'm excited for is, like, Thor 4, Guardians 3. I just don't care about any of the new people. I just don't. Like, I don't even care about a Spider-Man 3. Although I'm pretty sure that's something you would care about.
Mildly. I go back and forth whether or not I enjoyed Far From Home. I enjoyed it, but at first I was like, this is really underwhelming. Then I was like, you know what, I actually like this. This is good. And then I was like, well, this, but then now that, and like...
You know what also hurts it too? Is, like, just watching The Last Airbender recently. And it's like, this is a fucking cartoon, but it has, like, so much more depth to it than anything in the MCU. And it's... you just want more. You just want... And I just feel like the MCU is, it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They very much have that mentality.
Well, that's Disney's overall mentality.
Yeah, that's Disney.
That works for them.
And it's true. Like, I can't argue with them from a financial standpoint, which is the only thing that really matters to them. Let's be real. Like, with the live action remakes, I can't sit here and tell you, you're like, oh, they suck. You guys did a bad job. And they'll be like, okay, look at the billions of dollars we made. You know, am I really going to sit there and tell them, like, Lion King, the live action remake, is one of the worst films I've ever seen in a movie theater? And they can go like, oh yeah, it also made over $1 billion. Like, suck a dick. Like, that'll be their response. And it's the same with Marvel. And at the end of the day, Marvel films, I find them entertaining. I guarantee you, when I eventually watch Black Widow in 2032, I'll be like, yeah, that was... I was entertained. That was a good way to spend an afternoon in the bubble dome in which the rest of the surviving society lives. That was a good way to spend an afternoon, but then it'll probably leave me soon after that.
Well, I feel like it's already left me in some ways. The MCU.
Yeah.
I'll say that I was very much beyond satisfied with Endgame as
it was a good
finale
ending.
to the
and also
to the finale to the MCU.
Yeah. It was and also it's like it was like what, 22 films, like. And I keep saying
it had a good
this.
run. It had a good run. It had 10 years of stuff. I feel, and maybe I think maybe you were on this train before I was, but I look. Endgame happened. It was the end. Both of us agree it was a good ending to what that was. If you're not going to do anything new with it, cool. I'm gone. I mean, I'll watch them, but I'm not going to expect anything from you.
I guess my thing is, it sucks because we come off as like the negative Nancy's, but then I think about it, I'm like, it's 10 years and 22 movies. Like, what other franchise has had that long? 22 movies. I'm not the crazy one for after 22 movies to go like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm good. Like, I think we've said what we had to say with 22 fucking movies in this universe. Like, I don't think I'm the crazy one to go like, I think we've done it, guys. I think we're good. I think we're done. And like I said earlier, I think endings are so important. I feel like MCU is going to turn into that show that got renewed one too many times, and it just sort of spitters and sputters.
I also just don't know how you top the finale, the finality of Endgame. You don't, right?
So you just keep going.
Or you only go down from there. But Sam Raimi, Doctor Strange, like, to me, going forward, I'm not going to view it as a
universe,
interwebbed universe. I'm there for the individual films and from the creatives that I am excited for. Taika Waititi's Thor: Love and Thunder, Sam Raimi's Doctor Strange, and of course James Gunn's finale to the Guardians. That's what I'm there for. Everything else falls into that kind of MCU that is not only just bland, but becoming increasingly shit to me.
Yeah,
like Ant-Man and the Wasp is, oh my god, that's the kind of variety I see coming in. I don't want that.
Like, if Peyton Reed comes in for like Ant-Man 3, I'll wait for Disney Plus, and even then, I probably won't watch it. I feel bad saying this because there's so many misogynistic dumbasses that attack this movie, but like Captain Marvel 2, I probably won't care.
I mean, I won't care based on the character or the performance or the film. I will say I enjoyed the movie, but it is bland.
It's just
putting that out there, and there's problems with it. The most interesting part about it is the villain, and that even then wasn't used to its potential. But I will say, if they've already announced that the people who did that movie are not going to come back. So you and I always say that the best of Marvel movies, especially the sequels, are if they look at the first movie, they say, fuck that, let's do something new. If they do something interesting with Captain Marvel, then I'll come back. And they've done the first thing by getting rid of those directors, which is a trend that went away after, I think, Phase 2, because they've stuck with the ones that have worked the first time. Like Ryan Coogler is going to come back and write and direct Black Panther 2. I don't care about that because I didn't care for the first movie. Sorry, but that's how I feel. Maybe it'll be better, but we'll see. But there's the potential, of course, for things to improve with the switcheroo of the directors. And I will say, I never thought Kevin Feige would go for Sam Raimi. That surprised me. Or vice versa, that Raimi would go for Doctor Strange.
It's one of the last times where I went like, oh, okay. You didn't just get some random indie director who had a hit off of some festival, bring him in, and then just go like, yeah, just deal.
That's exactly what happened with Chloe Zhao, or Chloe Zhao, who's directing Internals, which was supposed to come out next month, but now it's coming out 2033.
But that's how they maintain control.
Yeah,
they bring in directors that they know have none. Tell them like, don't worry about the way the movie looks or like.
Well, they told Kate Shortland, look, you're a woman, you fit the description. You don't got to worry about the action stuff. We got it covered. That's what they told her.
Just work with the actors. Just have them say their lines, and it'll all be good. And it's like, the only I guess my thing is the only time I really will feel the need to come out now, especially with COVID, it puts everything in perspective. Don't waste my fucking time. The only thing that'll really make me feel like coming out to the theater, and of course the risk now, is for something is for when I feel as if they have a creative team that got past that bullshit.
Yeah.
And
which is why I'm so disappointed in the way they handled Black Widow for so many reasons. Part of why this interview pissed me off is because Scarlett Johansson is so much better than how they're treating her, especially the character of Natasha Romanoff. Because she was a character and an actor that was worthy of her own trilogy, like Thor, like Iron Man, like Captain America. And they never had the guts to do that. And the only time they greenlit a movie was after they killed her character in the universe, which neutered most of the excitement that would have come from this movie. And then whatever is left, you're already saying that, oh, this is her last one and Florence Pugh will replace her. And so there's, it's bad enough you don't really commit to stakes, but you're just bashing them in the interviews. That way you have no expectations whatsoever. I just think it's really disrespectful to that character and to that actor. Because she should have had her time as leading a franchise if they were going to do it before this situation happened.
They never gave that character, I think, its full potential. I don't think they ever did. But, oh well. Oh well. What's next?
Greyhound. Movie review.
Go ahead.
I don't want to go first.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't watch it.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. I just assumed you would because we talked about it and we were going to talk about it today.
Yes, but then certain things happened in my personal life that kind of made me forget. And here we are.
Greyhound is not a movie. It's a scene. It is one long 90-minute scene. It must be among the biggest waste of times I've ever sat watching a movie. I'm already predisposed against war films. But this movie didn't even try to have any kind of a story, a narrative. It had a flimsy attempt at building some kind of character. It was a bad movie. It's a bad movie because I cannot be bothered. It had some good aspects to it in terms of the action, but this movie is all action. It is one of the most pathetic scripts I've ever seen in a movie. And it hurts to say that because Tom Hanks wrote that script, and maybe that's why it was so bad. Don't watch it. That's my review.
We did good. We did good.
Did we?
That was good teamwork right there.
You wanted to say something about Hamilton, Peter. You saw Hamilton.
That I did see. Should I do my review for Hamilton?
We've got the time.
Okay. Oh boy. Oh geez. Where do I even begin? I want to make it very clear the Fantasy Fair is trash. I was so utterly, rudely uninvited. Well, uninvited is not the right word because that insinuates that I was invited in the first place. I was never invited to begin with.
Did you
to the
watch
Hamilton review.
Before the podcast was recorded?
Yes, I did. And also,
when was the podcast recorded?
We actually had an extended conversation.
Hold on
about
a minute.
This very topic.
Wait a minute, Peter. Wait, you haven't answered the question. You're dodging.
In the last
Did
podcast,
you watch Hamilton
but a certain
before
individual
the date to the recording?
Cut
because
that
I can
entire
confirm
conversation.
to you that we recorded the Fantasy Fair recording of Hamilton last Tuesday.
Yep.
And from my understanding,
Yep.
you hadn't seen Hamilton until after that day. Right?
Well. If, and you know this is true, if you are to appear on an episode, you were told ahead of time in order to watch it before said episode.
Yes, I was.
You were.
Mhm.
Exactly. Okay. So then why are you coming up with these bullshit excuses?
I'm not. I'm just stating a fact.
Okay. Well, that fact means nothing.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with what we're discussing. So anyways, it
just seems to me that you can't come onto a review show if you haven't experienced the thing
are
itself.
Trash.
I know for a fact that you
All these
hadn't
people are
seen
trash.
Hamilton
And
until after the recording of this
yes.
podcast, right?
What,
so
and
you
what did
couldn't
we
have
just,
possibly
and what did we
have been
just
on a
decide?
show to review something.
And what did we just decide? If for every episode that we do, we are told ahead of time, before the show is done, when it is planned, what we are going to review and what we are going to watch. So you saying that I hadn't seen it by the time we did the show means nothing, because I would have had to have been told in the first place to watch it, which I was not. And therein lies the heart of what I was
herein
saying.
lies the beauty out of all of this. You're on Red Spotlight Entertainment, and now is your chance to tell us how you felt about Hamilton.
I just want to make it very clear that I was
so
right.
No one gets left out. Everyone has their
very
say,
clear.
No matter when or where they say it.
Yes. Shove me into the corner of Red Spotlight.
I'm not shoving you into the corner, Peter. I am shoving you into the spotlight right now. It is your time to shine. Tell us about Hamilton.
Okay, Hamilton.
You see, you misunderstand. Like, rather than like sharing the review with like 5 other people, you get to have it all to yourself now because you're just that important.
Instead of being a part of the discussion, I get to shout into the void in the corner.
You have me.
I don't know if that's better. So, Hamilton. Based on the novel Push by Sapphire. It was a stage play musical written, or the songs, I guess. Well, it's all songs, never mind. Written by Lin-Manuel Miranda.
The adaptation of the book was completely written by Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah, I guess there was a book. Okay,
sure. Not the book itself, but the adaptation of the book. Which, of course, since it's all lyrics, it was all from him.
It's all him. God. Well, I never did hear that main discussion where everyone else got to say how they felt.
Really? It's been out for a couple of days now. In fact, Fantasy Fair drops every single Friday, so the recording of this is Tuesday.
Well, no one really needs
several
to hear
days.
That.
I mean,
no one
regardless of
know.
whether or not you feel that no one should listen to it, you are aware of its existence, and if you wanted to listen to it, it was disposable.
Anyways,
it was right at your fingertips, I think.
What exactly was your feelings on said?
My feelings are exclusively owned by Fantasy Fair on Hamilton, so we will start with your feelings of Hamilton.
Okay. Well, it's good to know that it is true that the mouse owns you. I mean, I've known it all these years, but it's nice to finally get a confirmation.
I don't really know what that means.
You own cars too. That's my mic dropper. Hamilton. Oh, God. I really don't know where to begin with Hamilton. I have mixed feelings, so to speak, and I don't know how to exactly word it. Okay, I guess we can start with some positives. I was never bored. I watched the whole thing. I watched it in one sitting, and I wasn't bored. That's really good, as far as I'm concerned. A lot of the music is entertaining. I think reinterpreting political debates as rap battles is ingenious. I like that, it's modern, hip, but with the old flair. I get it. It's nice, it's cool. Yeah, the music, I like the music. I said that.
Performances
are good. They're all good. Well,
with one exception, I think.
With one exception, but that ties into some of my issues. But the
stage production.
It's okay. I mean, it's one room with the center little swivel thing that like 360 spins.
Mm-hmm.
It's not impressive, but it's not nothing. Costumes are nice. Nice costumes. Music,
In terms of how it was
costumes.
filmed, do you feel that the cutting and the close-ups enhance the experience, or would you have rather have had like a stationary camera from the stage?
Stationary? No, fuck that.
Okay.
I know, I guess technically that's how you would experience it.
If you were there in the room
Yeah.
where it happened. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are you referencing a certain song? But no. I find it more interesting because I guess that's one of the things that sucks about musicals or stage plays is that you can't really see the acting. Like, it's far away.
Yeah.
But with this, it's like, oh, you can actually see them act.
Yes. Yeah.
That's one of, I think, the largest issues with stage plays. And it's probably why so many plays are just sort of over-the-top dancing and singing.
Well, yeah, because
it's easier to convey emotion that way.
And because you're so far away, depending on like
Mm-hmm.
what seats you have in the audience, like one of the tropes that they're, from what I understand anyway, you have to like sing or project that way even the person in the back seat can hear you clearly.
Yeah. But no, I prefer, and plus I like movies, obviously. Movies are more my jam, so a cinematic quality to the stage play is good. I like that. I did like the camera. Excuse me.
Are you okay?
The camera angles. So, the mouse might have poisoned me. I'm sorry. I do like it. I like the way it was shot. I don't know who directed it, but good job. I think anyway.
I had an issue with the intermission. If you're gonna include an intermission, make it fucking longer than 60 seconds. I mean, really? Otherwise, why include it?
Yeah, I guess they could have just cut directly into the next song they were gonna do.
I guess my thing is, if you're trying to like recreate some aspect of that theatrical experience, have the 15-minute intermission. Have some kind of like a respite before you go into the second act of it.
Yeah, it's weird. Either have it or don't. This weird half-assed 1 minute thing is it don't work. So, I should probably talk about my central issues with this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked about this, I sent a message before. This isn't Hamilton. This isn't a story about Alexander Hamilton, although they drop a lot of fun facts about the man. And the play is basically a spark notes of his life.
Mm-hmm.
The character Alexander Hamilton is an idealized version of Lin-Manuel Miranda. At least that's very much how it comes off.
Yeah.
And I can kind of see how that puts people off, because I'll be honest, it put me off.
Well, a lot of people, even who like the performance and the character, are put off by the nature of how he's even presented to it.
Well,
but
that's the issue. Right?
I agree. Can I just say, hold on, before you get to that, I'm trying to agree with you here. What? You're so disgusted by the agreement that's going on here? No, that way that the point is made. At least that's the impression that I got from it, is that this was the Alexander Hamilton that Lin-Manuel Miranda created in his mind. And that because he personally identified with his idealized version of Alexander Hamilton, and that's what he took. But I mean, in many instances, a lot of the people here and how they're portrayed are idealized versions of what they are in reality. Not just because it is, of course, an adaptation. Not just because, of course, these people were like, 215 plus years gone from, being alive. And we mentioned this on Fantasy Fair, the inherent underlying issue, of course, with figures in this time period is that while you can single out good things that they've done, we have to, of course, they were all slaveholders. There's a certain degree of, to a certain degree, the play really belittles and undermines that presence to not drag down Lin-Manuel Miranda's idealized version of Alexander Hamilton, one to which, of course, the actor himself recognizes to this day. So that is very much fair to be critical over to that.
It's more to that. It's more than that. I gotta jump in this. I agree with all that you would say. And that was very much my understanding, everything you had just said, like going in to watch it. Mm-hmm. That's why I was like, well, why are people so, what's the word? Pissy? If that's it. When this stage play did come out on Disney Plus, because there was a lot of issues that people had with it, and they were very vocal. And I thought, like, well, that's weird, because, like you had said, I feel as if what it is had been pretty obvious to begin with. But after watching it, even knowing what it was, it still rubs me the wrong way in several ways. For one, looking at it even as a heightened, idealized version of Alexander Hamilton, it's pretty annoying and pretty fucking stupid, I feel. Because it's one thing to maybe shy away from some of the very, very bad aspects of who he was or some of the people around him at that time, but then to just outright lie and make him the opposite of who he was. So it's one thing to maybe want to shy away from the whole slavery thing, but then to come out and just go, no, guys, you don't understand. Not only are we not gonna touch on his iffy stances when it comes to slavery and the fact that he might have very well owned them and sold them, not that he may have, he did. We're gonna come out and say he was an ardent abolitionist, and oh, if only he had a little bit more time, he would have freed the slaves. Guys, you don't understand. He's just that good of a guy.
Yeah. In case that wasn't, if I didn't make myself clear, I think I said this to you in my initial reaction to it. That part I found to be insulting.
That's like it goes from kind of like, okay, you're kind of running away from the darker issues, but if you're trying to create this light thing, I kind of get it, okay. And then but when you basically turn him into this abolitionist that he never was, that's where it gets really insulting. Mm-hmm. It's like if you found out Schindler's List, turns out Oskar Schindler didn't really help anyone. He just made a couple offhand remarks like, yeah, I guess, mass genocide kind of isn't cool. And then they from that they pulled this whole Schindler's List story, and it's like, that's really insulting and like crazy bad, I think. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to deny history, but to distort it to make shitty deeds not shitty deeds. And then it's the same. God, this is just sexist bullshit. I was genuinely pissed off when he cheated on his wife, and they painted it as like, oh no, you don't understand. He's such a good, smart, intelligent, good-looking, incredible human being. He's like the greatest human being that's literally ever lived. You don't understand.
That part of the show is, without question, the worst part of it for me. I'll tell you. I mean, I was very much turned off at that point by that character, and like I honestly like it wasn't even that pissed me off the most. It's the fact, and I guess this is based in a truth to what he did in real life.
Yeah.
The damn pamphlet thing, where he had the fucking like gall to like put it on paper and publish it and admit to it, as if that gave him some kind of like moral superiority that he had the balls to admit it. It's still a shitty thing.
But it's not even... the pamphlet thing. Oh, God. How upon his high horse did he think that, like, oh, I'll just come out and say it? But...
that was stupid.
The way in which the play portrayed, like, guys, you don't understand. He was just working so hard, and he was so tired. And then this treacherous harlot whore.
Yeah.
You know, she preyed on poor Alexander Hamilton. Oh, don't you know how much he loves his wife? He would never have done it if he was in the right mind. But this evil slut preyed on him when he was weak. And you know, we're going to insinuate that actually the wife and the man were in cahoots to extort money from him. And, you know, poor Alexander. Oh, he's such a good person. He's just so smart and good looking and intelligent. And it was just a moment of weakness. He never meant to do it. He was taken advantage of. And it's like, fuck you. Oh my God. Fuck you. Like, these founding fathers who owned slaves and raped them, like owned literal sex slaves, and who most of them, if not all of them, were known philanderers who just fucked everything that moved. These high society rich men that get around constantly, like, imagine, to me it's at the level of like, I don't know, 200 years from now, they make a Trump stage play and he's like lamenting the fact, like, oh no, I didn't want to cheat on my poor Melania. We're so in love.
Which time?
But you don't. No, it'll only be one time. It's just the people needed me and I worked so hard, you know, and like that. It's like, fuck you. Alexander Hamilton, he was fucking around. Like he probably did a lot, like all these founding fathers did, and then he got caught, and then he got extorted, and then even when he got caught and extorted, he didn't even give a fuck about that. He was more concerned about clearing his political name than his wife or his family or any of this bull. Like, it's such utter bullshit, and it's not even just like, it's one thing to go like, we're not gonna touch on some of the spicier details, it's gonna be more light and fun loving, but to say like, oh no, we will touch on those details, but we'll just do a complete 180 lie about them, and it just rubs me the wrong way. Whether it should or shouldn't, I don't know, but it really, really does.
If I were to guess, I think that entire section with the harlot and him admitting what he did, I assumed that was Lin-Manuel's attempt to introduce nuance into this and to make him... No, I'm being serious.
I know. That's why it's so funny to me. Because I believe you.
But yeah, I think most people took it as that this is how the turn in the play is, that, oh, look, this is his way of saying and showing that Hamilton was very much also full of shit while also having ideals that people can aspire to. That was, I think, the intent behind that. Mm-hmm. And I would assume defenders of Hamilton would bring that up as an example of how gray Hamilton is portrayed in this.
It's not gray if you completely excuse him and absolve him of any sins at the same time that you're showing those sins. And not only do you absolve him of all of his sins, but you turn him into a hero and of some of those sins, like slavery, and say, no. He was actually he was an abolitionist guy. Like, you don't understand. Alexander Hamilton was the wokest founding father. Like,
I think historical evidence
bullshit.
If I remember reading correctly or hearing that, that Hamilton may have leaned in that direction as a young guy, but then the second he got into power, that dissipated entirely.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, a tale is all this time.
It's like a boomer Republican that went to like one protest in the 70s but then went on to vote Republican and be the biggest Trump supporter for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, no, like, fuck off. Like, I don't... And I guess that's the thing. If you're viewing it from even a light, like, obviously this isn't real life and da-da-da-da-da. But even when you're viewing it from that perspective, it just comes off gross.
It did.
Like, and then I do sort of feel as if casting everyone of color was a
cop out.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you this, because I'm of two minds about it.
It's a brilliant move. It's 4D chess, I feel.
I'm of two minds about it because, like, the way that it ends with, like, who tells your story when you're gone? And the irony is that for a lot of these white racists and slaveholders, it is the people of color who get to tell your story when you're gone. And I think that's a little bit of a, well, at least the way I took it. Not that it was intended this way, but at least the way that I took it is that a little bit of shade thrown at them for being the way that they were and their horribleness. So, yeah, on one hand of it, I get, at least I see the irony in that. Not that maybe it was intended that way. But at the same time, at least for me, it is very much, the impact of that is very much numbed because it is such a neoliberal move. You know how Dr. Cornel West said, we tried black faces in high places? It reeks so much of what I hate about the neoliberals, and that is they think by just adding diverse faces to what already exists are solutions to the problems that are very much exclusive to those groups of minorities. And to me, I find that patently offensive anywhere I see it, including in this. While I think this came from Lynn's perspective and his heart. And I do think that this was a move that was made with the best of intentions. That doesn't make it good. It very much came across like the modern day neoliberals and what they offer as solutions for diversity.
You know, I think it could work. Right? Like, because the biggest issue is you talk about, like, oh, it's kind of like a fuck you, and it is kind of, because I think you bring any of the founding fathers to the future to have them watch Hamilton, they'll probably, you know, say some racist shit.
Yep.
But so kind of a fuck you to their backwards beliefs of the times. But the issue becomes, you know, people of color's faces are used to
glorify the slaveholders,
glorify and whitewash all of their sins. Like, they talk about, like, who lives, who dies, who tells your story. Using black faces and brown faces in this show isn't used to address it. It's used to cover up and even glorify their crimes. Eesh. That's really the issue. Yeah. And I think it would have been interesting if they actually address that, right? Because especially if you're doing like a fun rap style retelling of Alexander Hamilton's life, you know what? It does kind of make sense because, like, you know, who created rap? You know, who are the founders of rap? So to have people of color,
Oh my God.
yes, pun intended.
Oh my God.
To have them within these roles, and then the whole idea of who lives, who dies, who tells your story is actually really interesting, right? Yeah. The people with the skin color in which a lot of them enslaved, sold, bought, are now the ones telling their story, right? And if the play actually addressed this head on and kind of had a discussion about it, like maybe even at the end go like, you know, all those things, it's like, yeah, Alexander Hamilton wasn't an abolitionist. A lot of the things that you saw tonight weren't really who he was, you know, like maybe just have a song about that, like at the end, incorporated into who lives, who dies, who tells your story, where it's like, yeah, this was a fun, you know, emotional romp of a time, but then you sort of peel back the layers and maybe address some of the shit, or even do it throughout the play. I could see that being very interesting.
I agree. I have a question, and I'm very curious to find out your thoughts on this, because this leads into an overall discussion about not just, let's say, in pop culture, but then also in public education, about your view regarding the Founding Fathers and how they should be portrayed.
Yeah, they should be portrayed as people. The deification of the Founding Fathers is, I think, pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the worst things we've done as a nation. And one of the most difficult things, especially here on the internet, for people to come to terms with is not viewing an individual as wholly evil or wholly good. Just sort of viewing a human as a human. Like, they did these things. They helped found the country, the Constitution. They did this, they did that. They did overcome, you know, a lot of adversity. They did. And we can individually pick out moments of their life, maybe things they accomplished in the long run, and go, overall, I view this as a positive, and this and this and this. And then we can point out other aspects of them as human beings in their lives and go like, well, and say, I view this as a negative, this is a negative, this is a negative. And then ultimately view these people not trying to determine whether they were quote unquote good or bad, but rather just the reality of who they were and what happened.
I can't say how much I agree with you. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God, like that really is what bothers me the most, is that, you know, today's culture has to, like, someone has to be definitively good or definitively bad, which is bullshit. Because every life, every person is a collection of good things and bad things. That's the plain truth. That is what, and you know what it all comes back to is, what's a word that I like to throw around? Nuance.
Oh, okay.
And it's a word that is always forgotten about when we're having these kind of discussions. We need room for nuance, because I think in nuance we can bring clarity. It's so ironic to me that, you know, in like pop culture, a lot of the gray characters, the less black and white characters, from a moral standpoint, are more interesting, and yet we can't have that same regard for real life human beings. It has to be completely bad or completely good, when of course that's not real. It never has and never will be. That's not in the DNA of human beings. And because, I mean, the story of the Revolutionary War, the birth of this country, is a powerful story about this group of, like, colonists.
It's an interesting story.
Overcoming the greatest empire on the planet. And then what it birthed from there on out. That can still be the case, and you can still view it that way. At least I do. But at the same time, you gotta view the negatives and the positives, and you as an individual should have the right to come at it, and you make up your own mind about it, obviously. But we can't exist in this vacuum of 100% good or 100% bad. And I do think I'll break away from you some in the Hamilton and say that I do think there was some effort on the part of Miranda of doing that, but it doesn't come nearly enough. And that may, I don't know, I can't speak to it because we don't review Broadway generally, right? And you yourself have said this on this show last week, that there are certain limitations in this medium. And I wonder if perhaps the issues that you have are possible with the medium that is Broadway. I don't have an answer for that.
I don't know. And one of the things, specifically when you're talking about like nuance and how difficult it is to just say whether someone's good or bad, it's also insanely difficult, a million times more difficult when you're talking about historical figures. You know, to place them in their time and, you know, in comparison to their time and weighed against today's expectations of what's good and bad. I don't know, but like to me, what's most important about these people in history is just the reality of it. Mm-hmm. Not whether these people are good or bad, but what happened. Like if a volcano sets off in the Pacific, I don't know. I don't think is that a good volcano or a bad volcano. It's just the facts of a volcano setting off. And to view these people in history, I think it's important to view them that way. Now, obviously, it's not to say that there aren't bad people or good people. Obviously, yes, there are. It's not to say that we can make moral judgments on certain acts that they took. Like, yeah, slavery bad. I don't care what time period it is, obviously. But I just don't think it should be our goal to suss out or determine whether some historical figure is good or bad. It's all about just the facts of who they were. Because that's what's important. That's what's interesting. That's also what's necessary, I feel, to learn and grow. You know, history is important. To connect it to Alexander Hamilton, the musical, I agree in that I don't know if it's possible within this medium. I have not seen a lot of stage play musicals.
I'll guarantee you this, you know, again, piggybacking on what we had discussed last week in you know, the very realities of this medium that is Broadway, but I can tell you it wouldn't be anywhere near as popular with some circles in particular if it went in the direction that you suggest, because as you do say, it is a medium that very much what's the word? Caters to the elite and the wealthy.
But like, just as a whole, this Hamilton property, I'll say, it's kind of weird because it's historical figures, but I feel like a lot of people view them like fun fiction. Like, I have no idea. I haven't looked this up. Maybe you can tell me. There's probably Hamilton fans that are like shippers, right?
Oh my God.
That are like, I ship this character with this character. I ship George Washington with Alexander Hamilton. Like,
I don't know. I don't want to know.
Okay. I feel, I don't know at all, like at all, but I have a feeling, I could be wrong, it's a feeling, that, yeah, that kind of exists, and that's kind of like what what the Hamilton fandom it kind of is, and it's weird, because these were real people.
Yeah.
They owned slaves, they raped them, they did this, they did that, you know. again, they created a nation in some of the unlikeliest of circumstances, and it's awe-inspiring. Oh,
are you saying that you? Well, I guess this wouldn't be of a surprise, but that it troubles you that there would be large pockets of the Hamilton fandom that take Hamilton at face value and treat it as fact? Is that your concern?
It's weird. I almost wish that the play tried to be less factual, if that makes sense.
You feel like there's a conflation going on between what's real and what's not then, because it does try to be factual.
That's the thing. Like, when you view it as... Because I haven't even gotten to the whole other thing with Lin-Manuel Miranda. But if you're looking at the play as... Okay, Alexander Hamilton. It's about Alexander Hamilton, his life. It's maybe light, fluffy, whatever. But so much of the play is accurate. Like,
Right.
So much of the play is very clearly trying to be accurate as much as humanly possible,
and at
and
points
getting all
lifts
the
from
details
actual
right.
speeches, like George Washington's farewell address was brought into the lyrics.
Like, and it's sort of portraying itself as this historically accurate take, even if it's singing and rapping. But then the second it gets to something it considers unsavory, then it drops everything, and it just flies into complete fiction.
Right.
And it's almost like I don't know, like, you know, those people that how do I put this? Like, they're very much trying to speak politically and say certain things. But then when they're questioned on something, and they're like, whoa, this is bullshit. They go like, whoa, it was just a joke. We're just joking. I was just telling a joke.
You mean like Trump when he joked about like injecting or ingesting disinfectants into your blood? That way you can help fight off the coronavirus?
I didn't want to say specifics, but yeah. It's kind of like that.
That's why I'm here.
It's kind of like that, where it's like you're very clearly selling yourself, even if it's through music and rap. It's trying to be as historically accurate as possible. But then the second you hit an unsavory bump in these people's lives, you fly into fiction, and then it's like, oh, no, and then people try to defend it, go like, whoa, come on, it's clearly obviously not meant to be.
That's where it's so weird of a discussion. It's so like it goes in so many directions, and I find myself not knowing how I feel about it, because doing a telling of this story in the most nonfiction way possible would not make for an entertaining play. It would make for a very depressing play. So that's number one.
That's entertainment.
All right, it wouldn't be a Broadway musical. I'll just say that. It wouldn't be that.
It wouldn't be on Disney Plus.
Right. Number two, there is, I feel, and I agree, a concern that because it does sell itself as, and it attempts to go for things that are based in truth, then the second it flies into non-truths, it does create a conflation issue. And it is concerning, especially for the majority of the audience who very well does not know who these people even were or what they stood for. I myself, because I do know more, I feel at least I remember more about the history, I very quickly can detect what was true and what was fiction. So at least in terms of how I navigated it as a viewing experience, and the fact that this was a fucking Broadway musical, not a documentary, at least I treated it differently, but I'm not sure if that's an okay thing to say. So I'm very not sure how I feel about that. Because let me tell you what I took away from it. Is while there are, and you're right, I grant you all the things you said, I understand and I agree. But what I took away from what this was trying to do, at least, and again, this may not be like what is there, maybe what I projected onto it, and that could very much be the case, because it is me doing this. But what I took away from something like this was, it was trying that at least it was trying to capture the spirit of the ideas that these men had for a country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what they were as a people. And what I really, and this is what part of what, and you and I love history, favorite subject in high school. But what I really liked about these times is that, you know, I very much am very, I don't want to say nostalgic because I wasn't alive then, or a time anywhere near it, but I really do long for a society that I never really had, and that is one that, you know, placed value on, you know, education and political theory and being a statesman and caring about society as a whole. Now, of course, because slavery existed, you can't really apply it 100% to those people. But, and of course there were egos, and of course there was corruption. I mean, that has always been with us. But I guess my point as to what I took away from it and what I liked about it is that it just, to me, is an idealized version, at least of what I would want this country to be, and that is to give a fuck about any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't. And so much of my life has been surrounded by people who couldn't give two shits about the country or have the kind of awareness of what would mean for their lives if this person got elected. You know, that's what kind of what I took away from it and what I would want out of an idealized America that never really existed, you know?
Wouldn't it have been great if the play actually delved into any politics whatsoever? Because the whole time it's just like, I'm for revolution. What does that mean? Like, like even the beginning, when they're singing Bursar, like Aaron Burr or whatever. It's like the second song of the play. And then there's a line where he's like, "Oh, you're an orphan, I'm an orphan too. Wouldn't it be great if there's a war that we can, you know, take advantage of and show that we're so much more than anyone ever thought before?" You know, they start going into the whole shtick. And it's like, I mean, it just comes off like...
Well, that line particularly came off in a bad way, especially how you just said it, because, like, gee, don't you wish there was a war that way we could prove ourselves? Which speaks
it just
to the
feels
mentality
like,
of that time.
It just sort of feels like you want adventure, you just want to prove yourself to be great. Like, it doesn't feel like there's any, like, political... like, it's so funny that the play sort of emphasizes this too, where Aaron Burr's sort of the villain because he's like, you know, talk less, smile more, never let them know what you're actually against or for. But then Alexander Hamilton's like, you know, the hard-lined, oh, I have beliefs, and da-da-da. And then the play is like the embodiment of Aaron Burr's like the literal fucking embodiment of Aaron Burr's talk less, smile more.
His mentality.
His entire mentality.
It would be too charitable to say ideology because he has none. I mean, that to me was what I found to be curious. One of the curious things about this when I finished watching it is that, well, I guess I understand why now this is so universally loved on all sides of the ideological spectrum, because there is no ideology, there is no politics really when it comes to this, and the fact that what I find hilarious is that it does portray Aaron Burr as the villain. The play Hamilton is basically the ideology or lack thereof of Aaron Burr, but it does cast Burr as the villain because of the fact that he has no thoughts and that he's basically looking out for power. But that's every politician in the country.
And that's also every one of the founding fathers as well. Yeah. Like, they were rich, power-hungry individuals. And, like, yes, they were smart, and they were. And they had, of course, they had their political beliefs as well. But, like, they were very much politicians.
Yes.
In both the good and bad sense. So yeah, it's so contradictory, I feel, a lot of times. Like I said, with the whole Aaron Burr thing, it's like, this play is the manifestation of Aaron Burr, or at least this play's version, and everything you're telling me why I shouldn't like, or why I should view Aaron Burr as the villain, is this play. And then their whole thing of like, who lives, who dies, who tells your story. And I'm like, yeah, that's interesting. That's genuinely interesting. Especially, you know why that's interesting? Because with someone like Alexander Hamilton, you could easily tell a villainous tale, or you could tell a heroic tale, because, you know, he's an individual that is, I think, like I said, there's so much to him that you can't just paint him as good or paint him as evil, that I think it would have been really interesting to touch on that within the play, especially because they have it set up, who lives, who dies, who tells your story. But it was just, pun intended, whitewashed version of this individual, and then they kind of cover it up with people of color actors to play, and I mean, don't get me wrong, the performances are really good. I think all the singers and actors, they're really, really good. Everyone talks about how they liked the King.
Oh yeah, it was Jonathan Groff. You know him, right?
Yeah. And they were right. His shit is great. His song is great.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And the tone, I really wish, again, if you're gonna do this light, fluffy shit, I wish the rest of the play was a little bit more in line with that tone.
With the King?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it would have worked better. I would have much easily would have gone like, okay, obviously nowhere near historically accurate. Have fun, okay. But because they're trying to be historically accurate, and they're touching on the fact that they're telling the story, you open doors, and then I don't know what to tell you. The door's open now. Now I'm thinking about it. So yeah, this is the best way I can kind of describe it. I don't know if you've ever seen this picture, but it was a picture of those inflatable water slides?
Yeah. They're all around
party?
town now because nobody has anything to do in the summer.
Yeah. It was a picture of one of those, but it was in the shape of the Titanic. And it's like the Titanic was a real ship that crashed, and a lot of people died. Pretty harsh deaths. And then you have a cute inflatable slip and slide.
Yeah.
And it's sort of the meshing of these two, or I just sort of look at it and I go, "Ooh, that doesn't sit right with me." Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure that slip and slide is fun. If I climbed to the top and slid down, I'd be like, wee. But at the same time, just looking at it all makes me feel uneasy. And that's Hamilton to me.
Yeah, that's about what I expected.
But there is another lens through which to view the movie.
And?
This, to me, another lens to which to view the movie, and I think I said this earlier, or when I had messaged you guys, is to view it as the story of Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Right.
Because the character sure sound like Hamilton. It obviously, I feel, the character has much more to do with Lin than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And if you sort of view the story of Hamilton actually being, I don't know what's the word, allegory? I don't know. Sort of symbolic of Lin-Manuel Miranda himself and his life.
Mm-hmm.
This idea of he's someone who, who's, hungry, go-getter, talks too much maybe, and sort of, comes in an underdog into Hollywood, but he tries hard and he has beliefs and he steadily rises and da-da-da-da-da. Like, I can really view it as that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, it's just that you invite the problematicness of it because of the setting and the real life figures, and you're applying your own life to them when that's not real, right? That's kind of where we're at.
That is an issue, but then my other issue is he comes off as a dick. Like, when you view it that way, I like Lin-Manuel Miranda, but if the character of Hamilton actually is like him, I don't know on a personal level.
You like,
I might, if I would like
Miranda
him
anymore, and maybe that's one of the reasons why this was not after him, and maybe more you gave him the name of Alexander Hamilton. It's really funny what you say, because with all of that being said, I still really liked Hamilton. I still do. In large part because of the performances, the stagecraft, and as well as the lyrics, the music. I think all that works for me so much so that I can enjoy this as entertainment while understanding, of course, the issues that are at play. And it's funny because I walked away with it with Alexander Hamilton, the character, quote unquote, and Lin-Manuel Miranda's performance being...
It's the least interesting thing about the play.
It is. Like, entirely so. So it's like I walked away not caring for the character, and similarly not caring for the performance at all. In fact, I think I think it was who was it? One of the critics for I think Matt, I don't forget his last name, from Breakfast All Day, that said that he had seen a version of Hamilton with a different actor that was so much better, and that he felt that this version was really bogged down by Lynn's noticeably weaker performance with the rest of the cast.
You see, the fact, though, that he made himself the guy, like Hamilton, the lead star, kind of makes me feel like that dick version of him, sort of seen through Hamilton, might be the real Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Well, what would you do in that position? I'm just curious. Not, judging one way or the other, but what would you do? I mean, I feel like, yes, it can definitely very much speak to the ego, but would he be as beloved as he is now if he didn't put himself as the lead?
He would still be the guy that wrote Hamilton.
Right. But do you think he'd be the superstar that he is now?
But
because he is the face of Hamilton, because he is portraying Hamilton.
Yeah, but I guess, again, talk less, smile more. Is the rise more important? I guess. I don't know.
Very interesting experiment this was.
I agree. Like, I didn't hate it.
Yeah, of course not.
It's just because going into it, there was already discussions about the play, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably the thing that most intrigued me about watching it. And then, of course, how rich people really seem to love Hamilton. Of every creed and color. So it's like, okay, that's interesting. But having seen it, I feel like I immediately understood every side of every discussion on the play.
Yeah.
Like, I could immediately... It's like, I understand why people become obsessed and love it and da-da-da, but I also understand the people that are like, fuck this trash. Like, I I just understood.
Part of what
every
is
fucking
limiting about Broadway as a medium is it sure as hell, and I guess this was by design, but it definitely is not for everyone. It's a certain flavor that we've seen with direct translations from Broadway shows of that variety, Broadway musicals turn into movies, and the audience not responding at all to it or very poorly to it. So, like, with this being, I guess, a variety of a concert movie, it's a recorded version of a stage play. What I find interesting is, like, I find it very difficult to recommend this because you and I had a similar experience with not knowing a thing about this. But what you and I shared is, in the first, like, 20 minutes, we were like, what the fuck is this? What is going on? What?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the initial reaction you get when watching this, which, like, I don't know if this is for everybody.
It seems to be for everyone.
It does, right?
Because everyone loves it.
But everyone... I don't know. I'm not going to get into... Oh, I don't want to touch this. It's just what I find weird is that without doing a full-blown discussion on this movie, because we don't have the time and I don't want to get into it, but what I find it really interesting that the very thing that people attack Les Mis for,
mm-hmm.
and that is it's all song,
mm-hmm.
no dialogue.
Yeah.
They praise it. Well,
the songs here are fun.
That's true.
And you could also understand what they're saying.
No, you can't.
I did.
I had the subtitles on the first time I watched it.
Okay. Well, don't worry. Disney will release a sing-along version very soon. I assume.
Look, rap is a very difficult genre of music for me to.
Oh, that's true. You don't
with.
Like rap,
and it's so fast.
I listen
that
to rap, so I guess I can pick.
Well, I don't, and that was a bit of a barrier for me to get over. So I had to watch it twice to make sure I understood what exactly was being said. To be clear with that, so like, I'm one of those that like, wait, what? Like it comes at you a mile a minute, and with rap, there's more liberty to do that. So I wouldn't say.
Would you rather a country version?
Look, I wouldn't say that this was like easy to understand.
Oh, okay.
And with Les Mis, there was singing, and they dragged out the words, and I could at least understand the diction behind that. And I guess my point was,
I had more difficult with that film.
I understand. I didn't, but again, different experiences there. I guess my point is, the similarities between those two is that it is all sung, it is all lyric.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. Hamilton is fun and poppy and sunny, and Les Mis is depressing and dying, and Les Mis.
And it is like everything's like, I am going to the living room. Whereas with Hamilton, at least it's like rap. Like I don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess
because rap is closer to actual regular speaking than song, so it's not as off-putting when like the whole Aaron Burr thing.
Yeah,
Burr, now have I
sir,
met you, Aaron Burr, sir? How are you doing? Like it's still semi like regular conversation. It's just rhyming.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with Les Mis, it was kind of weird. Like, are you not going to go? Yes, I might go, but I am not sure yet. Oh, yes, okay. Like, and it's like, just fucking say it. What are you doing? Yeah.
I think that may be a fun audio commentary. we can do a double feature. We can do an audio commentary of Les Mis, followed by Cats. Have a Tom Hooper special.
Throw in Hamilton. Get the trilogy.
I think we would die. No, I don't think we can do a commentary of Hamilton. I don't even know how you do a commentary of Les Mis, or Cats, really, because there's so much.
Cats
in
is
there.
the one. Cats is easily the best one. They nailed that. What's it called?
So just so we're clear, you're gonna stand here definitively and say that Tom Hooper's film adaptation of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cats
Mm-hmm.
is superior in quality than Lin-Manuel Miranda's Hamilton.
100%. That movie, that Cats movie, is an anomaly. That's entertainment.
It's not good. It's a disaster train wreck of a movie. I mean, if we're talking about quality, that's the truth.
What is good? What is bad?
I agree with that. I love Cats because it's a disaster and one of the weirdest creations I've seen come out of Hollywood, and I adore it for that reason, for the fact that it is, I think, one of the most entertaining experiences I'll never forget, and I'm sure on repeat viewings. But if we're gonna have a frank and honest discussion about, quality, that wasn't the intent that the creators of Cats had. It was an accident that it ended up being that way.
Does Hamilton have a secret butthole cut?
Well, you know what? You got me there.
Because Cats does. I mean, you just can't compete. Yeah, the music, and I've always loved Lin-Manuel's work. I love his music.
Yes.
And I think the music is good. Again, the performances are really good.
Yeah.
Like,
what's interesting is, like, I actually, looking back on it, I don't know what this says. I think his performance in the movie Mary Poppins Returns was better than his performance as Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Because I don't remember having an issue with
at
it.
all with him.
Whereas with this one, it was like, maybe it's because he's next to, like, trained, Broadway talent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, these are professionals. In movies, it's more about the acting first, singing talent second.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with this, I think it's probably the opposite. Although their acting was good too.
So you're saying that because his only competition in the movie was Emily Blunt?
Yeah.
But she did a good job. I think that she was good singing.
Yeah, but was she?
She ain't no Julie
Broadway.
Andrews. No.
Yeah.
I mean, these are some of the best singers. I mean, fucking Jonathan Groff as King George, beautiful range.
Angelic.
Oh my god. Did you like Christopher Jackson as George Washington?
He was great too.
I loved him. So yeah, David Diggs is not Thomas Jefferson as you.
Oh, and people love him.
Yeah, he's gonna be, I think, Sebastian in the Little Mermaid movie, right? Wasn't that confirmed?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I see it.
Yeah, I can see it. But again, I just imagine, like, someone wearing, like, a Thomas Jefferson shirt, and it's like him, and it's like maybe like, like, I don't know, it's just weird.
Yeah.
Again, it just goes back to the Titanic as a slip and slide jumper.
So I wonder then what we would feel about Into the Heights whenever we see that, because
that's the thing. I feel like I would love Into the Heights because
so Anthony Ramos is doing that. He was also in Hamilton. He was in Star Is Born as well as Lady Gaga's friend, and I think this is his first, like, lead role in a film. So remind me, and I'm not entirely clear, Lin wrote and directed this movie, Into the Heights?
I have no clue. I don't
I'll
know.
look it up right now.
I have no idea how his involvement is. Maybe just the music. I don't know. But you don't have that, like, well, you do have something similar, like the lead characters, like hard worker trying to get out into the world. I guess you can tell Lin-Manuel very, very much identifies with those kinds of characters.
Let me clarify with you. So, Into the Heights, directed by John M. Chu. The screenplay is by Chiara Alegria Hughes, and Lin-Manuel Miranda is the producer, among many others, it seems.
But is it not based off a play, or is it just...
If Moreno were here, she can answer you off the spot. I have to look for it. As to, like... what this is exactly about.
Mhm.
Because I saw the trailer and I didn't really get what it was about. I mean, I don't remember the trailer either, so...
Mhm. It's about, people...
I have it here from Warner Brothers. Lights
Mhm.
up on Washington Heights. The scent of a cafecito caliente hangs in the air. This is an actual description from WB. Air just outside the 181st Street subway stop where a kaleidoscope of dreams rallies this vibrant and tight-knit community. At the intersection of it all is the likable, magnetic bodega owner, Uznavi, who saves every penny from his daily grind as he hopes, imagines, and sings about a better life.
Yeah. That sounds like uplifting, and
right.
I'm sure the music's gonna be good, and there's no like weird historical shit tied to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like just characters, so you can make of them what you will. That's something I can envision really, really loving.
Yeah.
Sure, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. That was Hamilton.
That was Hamilton. You can stream now on Disney Plus. I'm curious to see though, if Disney is seriously going to, and it seems like they are going to put this for awards. I shudder to think how far it'll actually get, considering the caliber of minds that we're working with at the Academy.
It will be interesting to see how far it goes. As far as if it even gets nominated for one thing.
That being said, what's its competition? That's another canary in the coal mine here.
Well, that's the thing. If it gets nominated, it's gonna win. For anything. Because I guarantee you...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hamilton is like... If they haven't already... Well, I think it this way. If Disney is not able to get this film on the Academy, like get some awards, they're like, fine, we'll just turn it into a movie. They're gonna fast track the Hamilton movie.
I feel that's already...
Yeah, it's probably already in the works, like for sure. And of course, Lin is gonna come back and play the lead, which that'll be really interesting. I would be very interested to watch the movie just to see how they do it. Because obviously you're gonna have to cut out some songs. It'd be awkward because
he's spoken out against it.
Oh, really? He has?
He's made some comments that have poo-pooed on the idea of like film adaptations of Broadway musicals and him being constantly disappointed in those adaptations. They weren't welcoming of it, but money talks, you know?
Maybe
so,
the success of Cats changes the way he views.
Just to be clear, Cats was one of the most abysmal and pitiful box office performances of any movie this century, just to be clear with you. And you know that. And to be clear with the audience, it was a bomb. It was a disaster of a performance.
Where you say disaster, I say beautiful nightmare. I guarantee, because Lin-Manuel is Disney's guy.
Right.
Disney's
he's going to be
very much...
right. So from, Into the Heights coming up, but that's WB. However, I guess he's also working on the Little Mermaid movie. Probably
doing the music.
Yeah.
I mean, they already have the music, so I don't know what he would be doing. But, he's doing something. But especially after this response that they got for Disney Plus, and they spent all that money buying it, like, I guarantee you, who's ever, because we don't really know who's actually running Disney right now, who's ever running it is like...
It's Bob Iger.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, if it's Bob Iger, then 100% he's like, I need my Hamilton movie.
Yeah.
I needed it yesterday.
I said this on the Fantasy Fair podcast. Make no mistake, Bob Iger is not the CEO of the company, but he's still in charge. He is the chairman of the studio. I'm sorry, the chairman of the company. I mean, it's so bad that the actual CEO, Bob Chapek, is called Bob 2. They call him Bob number 2.
Poor second Bob.
He's like a disaster. Don't
Mario and Luigi Mario. The Mario brothers.
The comparison that I made on Fantasy Fair was that Bob Iger becoming the chairman of the company was like Ozai ascending from Fire Lord to Phoenix King. And then Azula is the new Fire Lord, that's Bob Chapek's. That's the comparison I think that fits the best.
How timely. But yeah, there's gonna be a movie. There's
Absolutely
gonna be a movie. However Lin-Manuel might have felt beforehand, it's gonna change.
Money talks.
Money is gonna talk and it's gonna sing. And he's gonna be the lead. Like it's gonna be a whole thing. I will 100% watch the movie adaptation. That'll be really interesting how they do that. Because again, with the musical, like it's just that one stage, and I don't know, they put like a table in the middle sometimes, like, right? And they're singing constantly. Obviously, you're probably gonna have to cut some songs for the movie.
How you begin to do that, I don't know. I mean, the hope is that you create a different version of this that's not so Broadway, but again, we're talking about Disney. Live action remakes, copy the same movie, make it live action, make sure that they have the songs, the formula that sells $1 billion. Like, to me,
and then you're gonna have the hardcore Hamilton fans. They're, in the front line, like, I can't wait for this song.
So when you add all that together, it basically is what they've always done. It's just another live action remake.
Yeah.
Adaptation of the same story.
Yeah. When it does release, though, we need to go to a showing with a lot of Hamilton fans.
Well, remember, this was supposed to come out in theaters, this Disney Plus presentation, and I think maybe they're going to try and do that whenever theaters are open again.
This was supposed to come out in like 2022, wasn't it?
2021.
Oh, no.
Fall 2021.
Okay. No, but it was going to come
Into
to
the
Disney.
Heights.
Disney Plus was 2022.
Maybe, yes.
So, okay. Yeah. No, they need to fast track that movie. Because I want to... What's the name? What's the, name for Hamilton fans? Do they have a name?
I don't know.
The Hamil fans? I don't fucking know. I feel like fandoms give themselves their own names, so I don't know. I'll look it up. I'm gonna dive into the Hamilton subculture. See if I pop out alive.
Okay. I think that's a great place to end, don't you?
Yeah.
Interesting discussion. Fascinating. Hope you all liked it listening. Remember, we have a lot of content under our spotlight here. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, Fantasy Fair, Red Spotlight. Don't miss our 250th episode while we're ending our Avatar series. Thank you all so much. We will see you here next week. And until next time, bye-bye.